many years ago on a peninsula called Hispania, which was inhabited by the Iberians, Celts, Phoenicians, Carthaginians, Greeks. There was a powerful wizard of Celtic origin, which worshipped nature, who fell in love with a Ḍijā'ina nymph goddess Greek which could hypnotize anyone with her beautiful singing. Alder and Agatha established a relationship in which Agatha got pregnant, but being a goddess, for it was forbidden to cross a human, and as an end result she and her baby had to die. Alder he consulted the Celtic oracle and to prevent this tragedy, which gave a final solution, which was to deliver the baby to the mother goddess Dijaina Celtic. She would take care of the baby when born. So the months passed and the baby was born, but Dijaina took the life of Agatha, who decided to give his life to Dijaina months ago, so his son could live. With the death of Agatha, Dijaina charged their treatment and accept this, as a tribute to convert the baby in a spirit Kitsune born with different physical qualities such as fox ears and tail, among other things subhuman. Dijaina also add baby's name to the Celtic horoscope as the sign of the fox. The news that a new spirit was born came to everywhere. A witch who was in love with Alder not tolerate the idea that this had had a child with another woman, and also this was recognized as one of the spirits of the most powerful forest. The witch decided to get rid of the baby at all costs. On a moonless night, the witch entered the temple of nature where lay the baby. With an attempt dagger killed the child, but was discovered by Alder, the baby's father, who had asked Dijaina to care for your child at night. Alder fight with the witch, but she stabs him in the stomach, causing him serious injury. However, Alder achievement throwing a torch onto which began to burn her dress very quickly. The wizard took his son in his arms and attempted to leave the place that began to burn along with the witch, and the fire was the only weakness of it. But before the witch was consumed in the fire, he managed to cast a powerful spell. She caused the disappearance of the baby, who was in the arms of Alder. The magician did not have time to save themselves and also was consumed by fire, as it was very hot, and the place caught fire and collapsed. After the death of Alder, nobody ever saw it happen with the witch and the baby until one day in 1700s, in a garden of the house of Antonio de Fox, a very important man. I hear the desperate cry of a baby, which brought his attention immediately and went to investigate. When Antonio arrived, the crying stopped. He was surprised to see a small red-haired baby with pale skin and green eyes. The baby looked like a hybrid of a fox and a human. Antonio took a dagger between his clothes he used to personal protection and approached slowly, but the baby looked at him in the eyes and smiled at him. Antonio fell in love with the baby immediately, dropped the dagger and took the baby in his arms. Antonio named the baby as Alexander de Fox, to which cry was his son. 5 years Alexander began to show talent, and like other children, had many skills and superior to other intelligence. Provided with a prodigious mind, it absorbed the knowledge that they were within reach, and such was his skill's wisdom that frightened him early in its formation. Shorten's age, he mastered several languages, but mainly stood out was his voice, that was one of the most beautiful of the time. Alexander it was frowned upon by society because of their physical appearance, but this did not care about this. He was very quiet in his spare time, was not related to anyone. Clerics and motherships responsible of their training were afraid of him. When Alexander infuriated, terrible things happened. At 11 years he was promised to a girl of good family named Maria di Montecampo, who came to live in the house of Alexander, for ensure close ties with his new family. But he soon frictions appear with his future mother-in-law Mrs. Soledad, who did not see the young man with good eyes. However, Alexander noticed this immediately, as he never trusted her. Mrs. Soledad commanded to abduct Antonio, force him to get rid of Alexander, because she did not want his daughter to marry a phenomenon. But Antonio refused to the whims of her. As a result, he was tortured by the kidnappers of Dona Soledad. Alexander thanked his extrasensory senses. He could hear the cries of Antonio for help, and he went to rescue him. But when he arrived, it was too late. Antonio had been killed. This was a very hard blow to Alexander, because Antonio was the only one that Alexander loved and respected, and vowed revenge for this. Dona Soledad hosted a dinner to celebrate a party, but never said intention had, since the place was mourning the death of Antonio de Fox. Since this was one of the most important members of the Spanish court, Alexander attended the dinner. Dona Loneliness which attempt to poison him, but Alexander realized and decided to make a change. Dona Solitude, confident that Alexander had drunk the poison wine, she began to confess that she had killed Antonio. This was the last mistake of Dona Soledad, because, after this, Dona Soledad's house went up in flames. Nobody knew that caused the incident. All the inhabitants of the house were killed, including the promised Alexander Mary, who was afraid and refused to Alexander, which she helped her mother prepare the trap to eliminate him. No one knew what caused the accident in the house. Alexander left Spain and Greece, moved to where I was naturalized as a citizen of the country. Greek, turned in an elegant young, began working with the police as paranormal detective. One day Alexander began to notice people around him that they aged and died, as I'd still had a semblance of 22 years. Time seemed to pass over it, lived for many besides having years. This led Alexander to investigate his genealogical tree, but found no trace of its origin, since in the family of Antonio were all human. Alexander begins to make a more in-depth investigation, because he did not know the reason for its longevity and youthful appearance, since he had lived for many years without change. So Alexander returns to Spain and decides to investigate the forests considered oldest in place. This was instinctive, because he had strange dreams with forests and beings that he did not know. In one of these forests, a strange old man who seemed a kind of shaman, who immediately identified Alexander as the spirit fox, the forest to which the Japanese called Kitsune, and attributes with the zodiacal sign Celtic fox. Also, the shaman explains to Alexander that his longevity was due to his special powers of the Kitsune. Besides the old man, it reveals that Alexander actually has 4,000 years and not age that he thought he had. What the shaman question is, how could grow into a Kitsune in the dimension in which Alexander lives, since kitsunes are not related to humans, and besides this they travel in different dimensions, so they do not raise their children in the human world. This causes an internal conflict. Alexander always wondered why he did not look like Antonio, and decides to leave that place and not continue investigating this case for a while. In 1820s he decided to become a singer. Thanks to his voice achievement have great success and was recognized as one of the best singers in the world. Alexander learned to use some of his powers. Kitsune the Kills helped to him in his work as a researcher. Besides that, learned to travel to different dimensions, so that is the reason that their clothing is somewhat ahead of its time. But even though he does not trust much in humans, know that there is life after death.